Welcome back. You are watching the press preview. A first look at what's on the front pages as they arrive. It's time to see what's making the headlines with the CEO of Total Politics Group, Mark Wallace, and the Daily Mirror columnist, Susie Boniface. They'll be with us from now until just before midnight. So let's see what's on some of those front pages for you now. Well, the Eye reports Prince Andrew has renounced his royal titles, including that of the Duke of York. The paper describes him as having been sent into exile by Buckingham Palace over the controversy surrounding his friendship with the late paedophile Jeffrey Epstein. The Telegraph describes the controversies around him, including his reported association with an alleged Chinese spy, as having brought the situation to a tipping point. The Prince continues to forcefully deny any accusations of wrongdoing. The Mirror describes Andrew as having bowed to pressure from his brother, the King. The Mail says he's fallen on his sword. Here's the Times, their simple headline, Andrew gives up titles. It's also the main story for the Express. The Sun dubs Andrew the banned old Duke of York. And the Star has an identical headline to their tabloid rival. In other news, The Guardian leads with the Chancellor warning welfare cuts are coming, with up to £1 billion in tax breaks expected to be withdrawn from the Motability Scheme, which equips disabled people with cars. While the Financial Times hears that Rachel Reeves will attempt to boost the ownership of shares in British companies, as well as revamping ISAs. So with us tonight, Mark Wallace and Susie Boniface. Welcome to you both. One story on the front pages, or most of the front pages, and that is that of Prince Andrew relinquishing his titles. Susie, I say relinquishing, but some of the reporting and speculation tonight is that he was pushed rather than jumping.
Oh, this whole story has got me so cross. This is like the fourth time this man has quit the royal family. He's been marched up to this top of this hill so many times now. In 2010, when he was first pictured with Jeffrey Epstein post the conviction for soliciting an underage child for sex, he lost his role as a trade envoy and was going to step back from various duties. It was 2019, after that disastrous Newsnight interview, when he stepped back from public role and being a working royal, in theory, not that he had much of a job anyway, and it was 2022 that he lost the right to use HRH. So now here we are again. There's been death by 1,000 cuts. I almost feel sorry for him. They should have just done it when they needed to do it, and that would be the end of it. It's dragged on so long, and it's been 15 years of scandal because they haven't seen a way to actually amputate this embarrassing bit of the family. And so now we have again, he's resigning, so I'm falling on his sword again for the fourth time. And it's a bit, it feels a bit performative, like someone's pushed him, someone's made him do this. It feels also, because it's a Friday night, and traditionally that would be the time that a Sunday newspaper goes to someone with a story and asks for a comment. It always does feel as well like maybe it's ahead of something else that's coming out. We don't know. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. But it's just... the one thing I would say, he's the one royal you can definitely say something has happened. You know, that photograph was a thing, that he did do that thing in Central Park. He did know that guy. Lots of stuff about the royals, it's all speculation. You can never really know what's going on behind closed doors, and they deny it all anyway. He still denies this, of course. But I just... As a story, I mean, it's a huge kerfuffle, but I'd wait to hear what's behind it.
You're saying that he's quit the royal family
quite a few times, and yet never gone.
The point is, Mark, he can't quit the royal family, and he remains a prince and forevermore will be.
Well, he's a prince. I think one of the papers, I think the Times, says this is kind of artefact of law in the calling of a monarch's son as a prince. But, as I say, HRH has gone, the various different roles, the different honorifics, ironically, the different formal gowns that he's wearing on the front of many of the papers are part of that. They won't be allowed to wear again, etc. But as you said earlier, the fact is there are two competing stories here. So the Telegraph says Andrew forced to give up royal titles. The Daily Mail says Andrew falls on sword. Well, if you've been forced to do it, you're not falling on your sword. You're kind of being pushed onto it. And it certainly seems that is what's happened eventually. As Susie says, maybe there'll be more honorifics out there that can be withdrawn later on. You've got a fifth go. But the issue here is, and I agree, the fact is that when something is inevitably an ongoing scandal, when it's deservedly a story, when it continues to be an issue, If this was politics, even our somewhat under-decisive prime ministers that we've had in recent years know that eventually you just need to call it a day. You need to, if a decision's going to be inevitable, you may as well make it early and make it yourself, and then at least you get some credit for having been decisive and you stem the bleeding. As it is, this has gone on and on and on. There's obviously suggestions that at times he's not only been not forthcoming, but I think the front page of the Times even features a column by Kate Mancy headlined "The Lie That Was Finally Too Much for Charles," and the suggestion that there have been allegations and been criticisms of the palace for not being proactive enough in terms of its inquiring into his affairs, financial and diplomatic and all sorts. But the idea that he's allegedly misled the king over these things, you can imagine why that would be what the Telegraph calls a tipping point.
Well, the fact is, in that infamous interview with the BBC, he said that he had cut ties with Jeffrey Epstein, and this email that's come to light shown that he was still in touch with him.
Yeah.
So he was
as though that's the worst bit of this. As though that's even worse than actually having gone to New York to tell a paedophile you can't see him anymore and lying about how much he sweat. But yes, it was the fact that he had told Newsnight, I didn't see him again after this point in time, and then an email has appeared. Now, what's really interesting, and isn't in any of these papers, is that those emails and some of this stuff has been coming out from a particular reporter who's based in America and who is known to have done lots of work with Ghislaine Maxwell over the years and to be quite close to her. And the suspicion is that some of the stuff that's been come out, which has been very unfavourable to Prince Andrew recently and has come via that same source, may have been pushed slightly in that direction, maybe by Ghislaine from behind bars, who, of course, is a former old flame, former girlfriend, I think, of Andrew's, and is the only person to actually have served any time on these bunch of crimes at all, because all the men involved have either committed suicide or got away with things.
All the allegations Prince Andrew denies, and he also insists that he does have a medical condition which means that he cannot perspire.
A medical condition which usually means you perspire too much.
But let's have a look at the eye. The line that I'm interested in here is that the palace forces Andrew to give up his titles and sends him into exile. That is not what's going to be happening. He will remain in this country. He's still living in the Royal Lodge, and that's something that perhaps, people are calling for that to be taken away.
Yes, I mean, it's sounds like a very comfortable and very close to home form of exile, if you're going to call it exile.
It's hardly the island of Elba, is it?
Indeed. But also, I think I'm right in saying that the lodge is subject to what's essentially a private rental agreement. But of course, part of this question, and one of the things which is spread into these wider scandals, as Susie referenced, in terms of his relationships with highly dubious figures internationally, Chinese senior officials linked to the Chinese spying infrastructure and all that kind of stuff, is partly because the question hanging over him, bad news for Prince Andrew, Rachel Reeves is clamping down on welfare, because his big question now he's out of work is, how does he pay for his lifestyle? How's he going to fund all of this? And it's got to be said that he's made a whole range, the major scandal aside, a whole range of extremely ill-advised decisions, a whole range of extremely distasteful associations, a lot of which essentially has been, it seems, in pursuit of effectively a career, in doing so in terms of making money. We don't fully know if there's further stories to come out, if that might have prompted the timing of this. But it is notable that this week, as in recent months, there's been this mounting drumbeat of scandals about China. There's been a mounting drumbeat of scandals about Chinese influence, about Chinese espionage, about the reach of Chinese commercial and political and diplomatic and other interests in this country. And it is also the case that Prince Andrew's been caught up in that previously as well. The fact is that his direct contact with officials in a regime like that has also hammered his reputation. That's not something which is going to get less controversial over time, because this issue has been disregarded by a series of governments. An awful lot of people have tried to turn a blind eye to the growing influence of China in this country. And even in this instance, a member of the royal family has been dragged into contact with that.
But the hope has been that the relinquishing of the titles, the statement from Prince Andrew, will draw a line under the affair. But many commentators saying tonight that this is not the end. There are further revelations to come out. We know that Virginia Giuffre's posthumously published book will be out on Tuesday. Do you think that this is the end?
No, of course it isn't. I mean, and in a sense, I do feel almost some sympathy for his situation, because he can't go and get a job. He cannot find a normal source of funding. He has the security risks and, pressures of someone who has a billionaire lifestyle, but he has the income of a Royal Navy pensioner on 30 grand a year or thereabouts. Somehow he seems to think that he should have certain status, a 30-room mansion, a fleet of cars, staff, security, all the rest of it. To some extent, he does need that for his safety. But he doesn't seem to be able to find a way to fund that in such a way that is, above board, that everyone would be accepting of. How he's done that across his whole life is up for debate. No one really knows. When some of the Chinese spy stuff came out last year, it was revealed that the palace wasn't even able to say, because they couldn't investigate his finances to see if they were all above board. They could only ask him the question, are they above board? And the answer was, everything's fine, go away. So there will be more scandals to come out from that. And they have repeatedly tried to draw a line under this, and it hasn't worked previously. The Epstein scandal in the States is growing for as long as Donald Trump is in the White House, and as long as, that whole conspiracy theory is rumbling away, it's going to keep having revelations. And various bits of evidence do keep getting published, which has something new in, a new email, a fresh this, a fresh that. So, and like you say, he can't resign from the royal family because he was born into it, and that's where he is. And it's not as though he's going to go and live in a housing state in Osterley, because there'd be some people protesting outside his house pretty quickly with bonfires and stuff. And anyway, Rachel Reeves is cutting welfare, and he wouldn't have a car either, because Motability would be cut. But I kind of almost feel a bit sorry for him, but he is very much the architect of his own downfall. I do wonder how much any normal person could take to keep having this go on about them. Either you just don't notice it and it washes right over you, or at some point you must be suffering as a human, but...
Mark, just quickly, the Sun and the Star, their headlines, banned old Duke of York.
It's a perfect headline, right? I mean, everyone likes a good, catchy headline, which is going to sum something up. And so much so that I'm sure the headline writers in each paper will claim they got to it first, but can't blame them both for going for it once they come up with this.
I think it's worth just reading the last bit of his statement, in which he says, I stand by my decision 5 years ago to stand back from public life. With His Majesty's agreement, we feel I must now go a step further. I will therefore no longer use my title or the honours which have been conferred upon me. As I have said previously, I vigorously deny the accusations against me. Susie and Mark, thank you very much for the moment. We're going to take a break. Coming up, what did the Home Secretary know, and when did she know about plans to ban Israeli football fans from Aston Villa's stadium? We'll discuss that next. Do stay with us.
Liberation Day.
By popular demand, here we are.
Donald Trump. It is quite the story. Wherever it goes, on Trump 100, we go with it.
Tell us who you're looking for.
Unbelievable we've come to this.
Are you overstating the reach and significance of this deal?
Not like you said it.
From the UK.
Why don't you go back to your country where you have a major migrant problem?
It was 10 feet from him, and all of a sudden the shots rang out.
People impacted.
I'll tell you on another day on the podcast what that was all about.
Join us wherever you get your podcasts.
Over there, to your left. There have been airstrikes every day. Hezbollah are very sensitive about us showing any pictures, and we're being hurried away right now.
It felt akin to riding into some sort of Armageddon.
Many other areas have been hit badly. There are shells coming in every few minutes.
Hear that whistle and that crunch? We know that they're coming from the south of the city, where there's a column of Russian armory.
I'm Alex Crawford, and I'm Sky's special correspondent based in Istanbul. It's trying to hit us. That's it. It got us then. There's a lot of action going on. A lot of hits still.
We were the first journalists and the only outsiders to reach the site of the attack several weeks after it happened.
We found from the missile.
It's very difficult to see
what around here could be conceived of as a legitimate military target.
Only about half a mile from the Turkish coast, boat seriously overcrowded. This is one of the most severe viruses in the world. Clearly not had very much to eat at all, a lot of them extremely thin and very frail. Look at that sheet of flames, and that has happened within minutes, and now it's coming from both sides, and it's moving this way.
The world's largest falls now down to a trickle in places.
I can't imagine how much plastic is lying at the bottom of this huge lake. Whoa! Getting up close and personal with a rhino.
This is what makes the job so fantastic.
We arrive. A secret hospital hidden in the Myanmar jungle, treating the victims of this bloody war. This is Myanmar today. Its military rulers don't want the world to see, but we have.
I fight for my own future. I fight for my generation's future.
This is an actual crime.
They don't care for that.
Myanmar army is only a couple of kilometers away.
So this is a major humanitarian disaster.
We've got your Sunday mornings covered. From the front page and the sounds of the streets to the voices of the people who make the major calls and big picture politics beyond Westminster. We'll put you at the heart of our story. I'm ready. Are you? Join me, Trevor Phillips, Sunday mornings on Sky News.
Welcome back. You are watching the press preview. Still with me, Mark Wallace and Susie Boniface. We're going to take a look at the front page of the Telegraph and this story regarding the Aston Villa match and the ban on Israeli fans that is in place at the moment. The suggestion here is that the Home Secretary knew about the ban of Israeli football fans prior to the story breaking today. I think the actual specific detail is that police had told her that there might be a ban, so she was told that it might be considered. So that the headline is definitively saying that she was told of a ban. I'm not sure that's exactly.
And in the fifth paragraph, actually, it says a source close to Miss Mahmood has insisted she was unaware of the final decision until Thursday night when everyone else found out, basically. So it seems that probably what's happened, and if you want to sort of try and find the middle ground in all the story, is that her office was certainly made aware that there was a possibility, they would have a big match like this, especially when you've had riots between some of the supporters previously, because the Maccabi fans in Amsterdam last year were involved in some riots, that you would have a threat assessment and that they have presented some kind of information to the Home Office about that and said, well, this is one of the options, we may ban Maccabi fans from travelling. And then the final decision came through a bit later, and at that point she was clearly aware that was the decision. She might have known it was on the cards, she might not have done it, might not have got communicated to her, but it looks a little bit like they're trying to pin a decision on someone who happens to be a Muslim minister, which I think is a bit sneaky.
Well, I mean, she is the Home Secretary. She's the Minister who
Yeah.
oversees policing in this country. And I think, frankly, had the Andrews story not blown up when it did this evening, this story would have continued to be on the front page. I expect it will be back on the front pages in the next couple of days. You're right that there is a middle ground, I think, between the headline and the denial. This Telegraph source says that it understands the Home Secretary was told that a ban was among the options on the table. And a source close to the Home Secretary says she'd been unaware of the final decision until Thursday. So it sounds quite likely that she was informed, here are the different things we're looking at. I do think it's concerning that the Home Secretary wouldn't say, well, we're not doing that one, right? I mean, the fact is that what happened in Amsterdam last year wasn't merely riots between football supporters. It was people who went out having organised themselves beforehand on a WhatsApp group where they referred to going on what they called a Jew hunt in Amsterdam to attack Maccabi Tel Aviv supporters. And what I think is really shameful about this is the fact is that if the view of police is that there's a high risk that if football supporters come to watch a football match, there are people who might turn up and try to attack them and threaten public order, the police should be policing those people, not banning football sports. And it's embarrassing for our country that this decision has been made in the first place. I do think the story is, some of what we're learning is that ministers have asked West Midlands Police what resources it would need to allow the fans into the ground. This is laying the ground for reversing this, rightly so, but it shouldn't have been, the decision should never have been made this way in the first place.
Susie Kemi-Badenoch saying that Ms Mahmood had serious questions to answer. This is a weak government that fails to act when required.
There is a lot to say about this story, and it's generally, I think there are plenty of times that a particular group of fans are banned from travelling to a football match. Celtic and Rangers is a good example because there's a fear of sectarian violence and so on. It does happen with other groups too. The Maccabee Ultras, a particularly nasty group of fans within that fan base, who are vicious and nasty and who were taking part quite happily in those riots in Amsterdam. And I think that the perception was probably by West Midlands Police that the combination of the Maccabee Ultras and anyone who wanted to have a real, issue with people because they happened to be connected to the State of Israel was going to just be an absolute bun fight and no fun at all for anybody. And I suspect West Midlands Police, so we just don't have the resources as well, was probably part of it, and it was just easier not to do it. But that's a PR decision, effectively, and it is an abdication of policing in a way, because although part of policing is saying, well, let's avoid having the problem and let's do that, also, policing is about saying, let this thing happen. We know that some of the fans are awful. Let's get them. Let's batten everybody's head if they're bad, haul them off and arrest them, but let the fans who are not awful have their match and do their thing. And the whole point of, policing over the past 40 years, since the era of terrible football hooliganism in this country, has come on leaps and bounds. They know exactly how to do it. There's face recognition cameras, there's proper crowd control. Post-Hillsborough, the policing failures we've seen in the past are, thankfully, a thing of the past. I suspect the problem now that they've got is if they were to lift this ban and let that match go ahead, as was, anyone who wants to go and fight someone because they're from Israel is going to be on that, like ants on a picnic sandwich. Anybody who wants to go and fight someone who is pro-Palestine is going to be doing exactly the same, and it's going to be a magnet for even more violence than they would have been the first time round. So if they do lift that ban, they've got to do it in such a way that selected fans, who they know are not in the horrible, awful end of the fan base, can come and do the match and do their thing, and that can be controlled. There's probably a way through it, but it's going to be horrible. And it's bad PR no matter what they do.
Which is why this is such a foolish precedent to set. The fact is that what you're describing is policing should police criminals. It shouldn't restrict innocent people in the hope that you sweep criminals up in the midst of it. This actually, on the grand scale, this is what comes down to ID cards and so on as well, which is we say we have a problem with various elements of criminality.
We must leave
so
it
everyone
there.
pays the price.
Mark and Susie.